Welcome to Unknown Facts, the place where history is weird, wild, and sometimes just plain what were they thinking. Today I'm counting down 6 of the most bizarre, strange, and downright cruel punishments in history. Now don't worry, I'm keeping it all family-friendly, fun to follow, and easy to understand. But fair warning, these stories are pretty intense. So grab a snack, maybe not soup, and let's get into it. Number 6. Cement shoes. This infamous punishment is straight out of 20th century American crime history. The term cement shoes became popular during the Prohibition era, when organized crime was at its peak in cities like New York and Chicago. Ever heard the phrase sleeping with the fishes? It was a favorite threat of the Mafia, used to warn rivals or traitors. The idea? Trap someone's feet in a bucket, fill it with wet cement, and when it hardens, well, let's just say they'd end up at the bottom of a river. Yeah, it's not about a nap underwater. The first known mention of cement shoes was in 1935 when a mobster named Tough Tony was found in the Hudson River, feet encased in concrete. It became a symbol of how far the mob would go to keep secrets. This punishment became popular thanks to the American Mafia. Here's the deal, someone gets their feet stuck into a bucket of wet cement. Then when the cement hardens, splash. Into the river they go. Why? Because it made sure that person never came back. Not exactly a friendly swim, it's basically the mobster version of saying you're fired, but with more water. Number 5. The flying torture. The flying torture, also known as impalement, was a terrifying punishment used in medieval Europe and the Middle East. It was designed to be both painful and a public warning. Now this one's called the flying torture. Rulers like Vlad the Impaler, yes, the real-life Dracula, used this method to scare enemies. Victims were hoisted up and slowly lowered onto a sharpened stake, sometimes taking hours or even days to die. Sounds cool, right? Like a superhero move? Yeah. No, definitely not. This medieval punishment didn't involve flying through the sky, it involved being lifted up and then slowly lowered onto a giant wooden stake. The most infamous user of this punishment, Vlad III of Wallachia, reportedly impaled thousands of enemies, lining roads with their bodies as a gruesome warning. It was meant to terrify anyone who thought about rebelling. It was used by rulers who wanted to send a message. Don't mess with me. Let's just say it was a very painful way to get grounded. Number 4. The upside-down saw. The upside-down saw was a gruesome punishment used in parts of Europe and the Ottoman Empire. Victims were hung upside down, which kept them conscious longer, and then sawed in half, starting from the bottom. Okay, this next one is straight out of a horror movie. The upside-down saw. Picture this. You're tied up, upside down, arms stuck, legs tied, no way to move, and then a big saw comes out. Yep, this punishment involves sawing someone in half, from the bottom up. Why upside down? Because it kept the blood flowing to the brain, so the person stayed awake longer. This method was used as a warning to others, and sometimes even performed in public squares. It's mentioned in old European texts and was meant to be as terrifying as possible. Yep, medieval people were too creative for their own good. Number 3. The bug buffet. The bug buffet, or scaphism, was an ancient Persian punishment that was as bizarre as it was cruel. The victim was trapped between 2 boats or hollowed-out logs with only their head, hands, and feet sticking out. Okay, warning, this one's kinda gross. It's called scaphism, but I like to call it the bug buffet. Here's how it worked. Step 1, the person had to drink a lot of milk and honey. Step 2, then they were covered in honey. Step 3, they were left outside, tied up, in the hot sun. And the bugs? Oh, they came marching in. Ants, flies, beetles. It was like an all-you-can-eat bug party. The most famous story of scaphism comes from the ancient historian Plutarch, who described how a Persian soldier was punished this way for murder. It was meant to be a slow, humiliating, and unforgettable warning. This method came from ancient Persia, and it's one of the most legendary do-not-try-this-ever ideas in history. Number 2. The human soup. The human soup was a punishment used in ancient Madagascar. Criminals were tied up and slowly dunked into boiling water, not to make stew but as a terrifying warning to others. Love soup? Me too. Warm, cozy, full of veggies. Unless you are the main ingredient. In ancient Madagascar, people used boiling water, not to make stew, but to punish criminals. This method was reserved for the most serious crimes, like treason or betrayal. The process was slow and agonizing, and it was often done in public to scare others into obeying the law. Victims were tied by the legs and dunked in hot water, slowly. Over time they cooked, but not fast. The pain was drawn out over hours. Not exactly your grandma's chicken noodle. Number 1. Drawn and quartered. The compound hanging drawn and quartered was the ultimate punishment for treason in medieval England. It was so brutal, it became legendary in history books and stories. Alright, brace yourself, because this one is so over the top it feels like a medieval boss battle. It's called being drawn and quartered. Here's how it went down. Step 1, you get tied up and dragged through the streets by horses. Step 2, they hang you, but not until you're dead. Step 3, then they remove your limbs, one by one. Step 4, and finally, well, let's just say, the rest of your body doesn't exactly get a happy ending. This punishment was reserved for the worst crimes against the king. The most famous case, William Wallace, the Scottish hero, was drawn and quartered in 1305 for leading a rebellion against England. Used mostly in medieval England, this punishment was saved for people who committed treason, which means betraying the king. Let's just say you really didn't want to upset the king back then, and there you have it. 6 of the most unusual and disturbing punishments in human history. Sure, these were dark times, but they also teach us something. How far we've come in understanding justice, compassion, and, let's be real, basic human decency. So, here's a challenge for you. If you had to invent a silly, completely harmless punishment, like being tickled by feathers or forced to listen to a parrot singing opera, what would your punishment be? Drop it in the comments. I want to see who's got the wildest imagination.